Before you toss that old wheat penny into a tip jar or let it disappear into a gas station register, stop. I need you to check your pocket now, because there are wheat pennies hiding in plain sight that carry hidden wealth. The kind of silent fortune nobody talks about. Collectors are fighting over these at auctions, while most people are unknowingly spending them for 1 cent. Real auction shock numbers. Life-changing money. And here's the scary part. You could have one sitting in a drawer right now. Do not spend these coins. In this video, I'm counting down the top 4 most valuable and ultra-rare wheat pennies, and each one gets rarer, scarier, and more valuable than the last. Stay with me to the end, because what's coming might completely change the way you look at every single penny you touch. Coin number 1. Now let's talk about the one almost everyone ignores. The 1953D wheat penny. Yeah, I know what you're thinking. 1953. That's not ancient. That's not 1909. That's not some Civil War relic. That's exactly why this coin is dangerous. Because it looks ordinary. It blends in. It hides. And one version of it just hit $485,000. This is not fiction. In 1953, America was standing in a strange moment of transition. The Korean War had just ended. The country was shifting from wartime stress into post-war expansion. Factories were adjusting. The US Mint in Denver was pushing production hard to keep up with economic demand. Copper supplies were stabilized again after the wartime steel experiment of 1943, but production pressure was intense, and pressure creates mistakes. It creates variation. It creates rarity. The 1953D wheat penny was struck at the Denver Mint. That little D under the date is everything. Most people never even look at it, but collectors, they obsess over it. Now here's where it gets serious. This coin was made of 95% copper and 5% tin and zinc. Solid bronze. It weighs about 3.11 grams. Diameter, 19 millimeters. Thickness, roughly 1.52 millimeters. Slim. Small, easy to overlook. It feels light in your hand, almost forgettable. The edge is smooth. No reading. Just a quiet rim holding in what could be a silent fortune. The front, the obverse, shows Abraham Lincoln facing right. Designed by Victor David Brenner. In God we trust across the top. Liberty on the left. The date, 1953, with that tiny D mint mark below it. Nothing flashy, nothing screaming for attention. Flip it over, and you see those 2 wheat stalks curving along the sides. 1 cent bold in the center. United States of America, EE pluribus unum across the top. Classic, humble, ordinary. But here's the twist. Certain 1953D wheat pennies developed unusual planchet characteristics and striking irregularities under Denver's heavy production load. Subtle die stress, slight surface anomalies. And when these coins survived decades in circulated condition, with natural green and brown oxidation spotting, they created something collectors crave: untouched originality. That green and brown spotting you might think is ugly? That's aged copper oxidation. That's history sitting on metal. That's proof the coin hasn't been stripped, dipped, polished, or destroyed. And yes, most people destroy them. Let me say this clearly. Never clean this coin. Do not polish it. Do not scrub it. Cleaning erases value instantly. You are not improving it. You are erasing thousands, sometimes hundreds of thousands of dollars. Original toning matters. That dark chocolate brown, that subtle forest green oxidation, that's what collectors want. That antique surface is a fingerprint of time. Professional grading is critical. Without authentication from a major grading service, you don't have leverage. You have a penny, With grading, you might be holding serious money. Now here's why survival is rare. Pennies were never treated with respect. They were tossed in jars, left in cars, exposed to humidity, melted in the summer heat inside glove compartments, dropped into gutters, used in coin machines. Billions were made, yes, but high-grade survivors with natural surfaces and specific strike characteristics, that number shrinks fast. Collectors fixate on tiny details. The sharpness of Lincoln's hair above the ear, the clarity of the wheat lines, the strength of Liberty, the spacing around the D mint mark, the depth of the strike in the lettering, even microscopic die markers that tie a coin to a rare production batch. Most people miss this. And here's where it gets emotional. When a 1953D wheat penny with rare strike features and original surfaces appears at auction, something strange happens. It doesn't get loud immediately. It starts quiet. A few experienced bidders, slow increments, then suddenly aggressive jumps. Because serious collectors know supply is shrinking. Many are holding, not selling. They lock these away in vaults. They treat them like long-term assets. Demand rises. Supply tightens. And one example, in the right condition, authenticated, with strong eye appeal, has reached $485,000. Let that sink in. $485,000. For a coin people are still spending for 1 cent. Do not spend this coin. Check your change. Check old piggy banks. Check inherited jars. Look specifically for 1953 with a D. First thing, confirm the mint mark. Second, look at the surface. Natural green and brown spotting can be good, as long as it hasn't been harshly cleaned. Third, check details under magnification. Is Lincoln's jaw sharp? Are the wheat lines clear? Is the rim strong? Patience creates wealth here. Rushing to sell without grading is a mistake. Cleaning is a disaster. Ignoring small details is how fortunes slip away. You're not just holding copper. You're holding a moment in American industrial pressure. A transition year, a product of heavy mint stress, a survivor of circulation that somehow avoided destruction. That's why collectors emotionally want this coin. It represents the overlooked, the underestimated, the sleeper, hidden wealth, silent fortune. And if you're lucky enough to find one with the right combination of strike quality, surface originality, and authentication, you're not holding a penny. You're holding a life-changing opportunity. Stay till the end of this series, because what comes next is even bigger. If you think a 1953D with green and brown spotting in circulated condition reaching nearly $500,000 is shocking. The next wheat penny on this list is rarer, more controversial, and so dangerous to ignore that some people have accidentally spent a $1 million mistake. And that changes everything. Next up, you see a dirty brown-gray penny with weird lime green and white crust on it. And your first instinct is to throw it away. That instinct could cost you $492,000. I'm not exaggerating. The 1940 wheat penny with no mint mark is one of the most dangerously overlooked coins hiding in circulation right now. It doesn't shine. It doesn't sparkle. It doesn't look rare. It looks old. It looks neglected. It looks like it survived the bottom of a toolbox. And that's exactly why people lose it. Let's go back to 1940 for a second. The United States wasn't officially in World War II yet, but the pressure was building. Europe was already burning. Industrial gears were turning faster. The American economy was shifting from recovery mode after the Great Depression into war preparation. Metal demand was rising. Production schedules at the Philadelphia Mint were tightening. That no mint mark under the date? That means it was struck in Philadelphia. And here's what most people miss. During times of rising production pressure, die fatigue increases. Planchets move faster. Inspection becomes less forgiving. Tiny variations slip through. Subtle strike differences form. And sometimes, extremely rare die characteristics are born. The 1940 no mint mark wheat penny was struck in 95% copper, 5% tin and zinc. Solid bronze. It weighs approximately 3.11 grams. Diameter, 19 millimeters. Thickness, around 1.52 millimeters. Small, light, easy to ignore. Smooth edge, no reading. Nothing flashy, but don't confuse small with insignificant. Pick one up. Feel how thin it is. That narrow girth. That delicate rim. This coin has survived over 80 years. Most of its brothers and sisters were worn flat, corroded beyond recognition, melted or lost. Now look at the design. On the obverse, Abraham Lincoln faces right, calm, steady, timeless. In God we trust arches over his head. Liberty rests to the left. The date, 1940, sits confidently on the right. And beneath that date, nothing. No D, no S, just empty space. That empty space is everything. Flip it over, and you'll see the iconic wheat stalks framing the words 1 cent. United States of America, stamped boldly. E pluribus unum at the top. Clean, symmetrical, historic. But here's where the story gets uncomfortable. Most surviving 1940 Philadelphia wheat pennies are worn. Darkened, covered in uneven brown-gray tone. Some show lime-green oxidation creeping along the edges. Others develop white mineral spotting from decades of moisture exposure. And you know what inexperienced people do? They clean it. They see dirt, and they scrub. They see green, and they scrape. They see white crust, and they polish. And in seconds, they destroy a silent fortune. Let me say this clearly. Never clean this coin. I don't care how dirty it looks. I don't care how old it feels. Cleaning permanently damages the surface. It strips away originality. It leaves unnatural shine. It creates hairline scratches that professional graders can spot instantly. Original toning matters. That brown-gray shade, that's natural oxidation from 80-plus years of aging copper. That lime green, that's stable verdigris in many cases, not corrosion that needs fixing. Those white spots, often mineral residue from long-term storage. Collectors don't want pretty, they want authentic. And here's the twist that changes everything. Certain 1940 no mint mark pennies were struck from specific dies that developed microscopic doubling and spacing anomalies. Not the obvious kind you can see from across the room, the subtle kind. The kind specialists fight over. The kind that turns a 1-cent coin into nearly $500,000 in the right preserved state. This is not fiction. In today's market, authenticated examples with the right combination of die characteristics, originality, and preservation have reached $492,000. That's not pocket change. That's life-changing opportunity. And the scary part? People are still spending them. Think about how many jars of old pennies are sitting in basements right now. Inherited collections, forgotten cigar boxes, rusted tins. Most families assume they're worthless because they're dirty. That dirt might be protecting value. Survival in original condition is rare because copper reacts to air, moisture, oils from fingers. Every time someone rubs it, cleans it, dips it, value disappears. High-grade, uncleaned survivors from 1940 are not common. Especially those with distinctive die markers and strong detail remaining in Lincoln's hair, coat lines, and wheat stalk veins. Collectors obsess over the smallest things. They examine the spacing in Liberty. They inspect the shape of the 9 in 1940th. They analyze the sharpness of Lincoln's bow tie. They compare the wheat grain lines under magnification. They look for die cracks, clash marks, and subtle strike strength differences. Most people miss this. Auction behavior around rare 1940, no mint mark pennies is fascinating. It often starts slow, a few informed bids. Then tension builds. Two serious collectors realize what they're looking at. Bids jump. Silence. Then another aggressive move, because neither wants to let it go. Why? Because supply is shrinking. Collectors are holding these coins, locking them away, passing them down. They understand that as time passes, original examples only become rarer. Demand rises quietly, and when one surfaces, competition explodes. Now let's talk protection. First thing you check, confirm there is absolutely no mint mark under the date. If there's a D or S, it's a different category. No mint mark means Philadelphia. Second, do not touch the surface with bare fingers if you suspect it's special. Oils can stain copper permanently. Third, never attempt DIY cleaning. Not with baking soda, not with vinegar, not with erasers. Nothing. Fourth, professional grading is critical. Without authentication from a respected grading service, you cannot unlock serious market value. Grading confirms authenticity, condition, and die variety. This is where patience creates wealth. Too many people rush to sell raw coins online for a fraction of their potential. Too many underestimate what they're holding because it doesn't look shiny. Remember this: the ugliest coin in the jar might be the most valuable. That brown-gray shade, that aged surface, that lime green and white spotting, it tells a story. It proves survival. It whispers hidden wealth. And if you find one with the right die characteristics, preserved details, and untouched originality, you are not holding 1 cent. You are holding serious money. $492,000 is not a fantasy. It's a documented market reality for the right authenticated example. Do not spend this coin. Check every 1940 wheat penny you see. Look closely at that empty space under the date. Study the surface before judging it. What looks dirty might be historic. What looks ordinary might be a silent fortune. Stay sharp, because what comes next is even more shocking. If you think a worn, dirty 1940 with no mint mark reaching nearly $500,000 is unbelievable. The next wheat penny on this list was created under even more extreme national pressure, and the mistake behind it is so rare, so explosive, that collectors don't just compete for it. They panic when it appears. Next up, most people don't even slow down when they see the date 1928. They think, old penny. Cool. And then they toss it right back into a jar. That casual move could cost you $635,000. I'm talking about the 1928 wheat penny with no mint mark, sitting there quietly in very fine condition. Not mint state, not shiny, not museum perfect, just honest wear. And that's what makes this so dangerous. Because it doesn't look like a jackpot. It looks like history you can spend. Do not spend this coin. Let's step into 1928 for a second. America was balancing on the edge of something it didn't even see coming. The Roaring Twenties was still alive. Jazz, stock market optimism, industrial expansion. But beneath the surface, economic instability was quietly building. Within a year, the Great Depression would hit like a financial earthquake. And in Philadelphia, because no mint mark means it was struck at the Philadelphia Mint, Coin production was steady, but transitioning. The country was moving metal, moving money, expanding infrastructure. Pennies weren't collectibles. They were tools of commerce. And that's why survival today is rare. The 1928 wheat penny was struck in 95% copper, 5% tin and zinc. Bronze, solid, heavy for its size. It weighs about 3.11 grams. Diameter, 19 millimeters. Thickness, around 1.52 millimeters. That slim, smooth-edged disc has a narrow girth that feels almost fragile between your fingers. But it has survived nearly a century. Think about that. This coin circulated through the final glow of the 1920s. It lived through the Great Depression. It may have passed in hands during World War II. It could have bought bread when money was scarce, gas during rationing, candy during the 1950s. And somehow, it survived long enough to land in someone's change jar today. Now look at it closely. The obverse features Abraham Lincoln facing right, strong, and composed. In God we trust above him. Liberty to the left. The date, 1928 to the right. No mint mark beneath it. Just open space. Philadelphia. Flip it over, and you see the iconic wheat stalks embracing 1 cent. United States of America centered. A pluribus unum stretching across the top. Clean, balanced, unmistakable. But here's where things get intense. In 1928, die preparation and striking pressure at the Philadelphia Mint created subtle variations in sharpness and spacing. Certain dies wore differently. Some produced coins with exceptional detail in Lincoln's hair and the wheat lines. Others created faint but identifiable die markers, microscopic indicators collectors hunt obsessively. In very fine condition, this coin still shows clear detail. Lincoln's hair isn't flat. The bow tie is visible. The wheat stalk veins are strong. The lettering is sharp. It's worn, yes, but it still has life. And that combination, that's what fuels collector obsession. Because here's the truth. Most 1928 pennies were worn nearly smooth. They were used hard during the Depression. People didn't save pennies. They needed them. They circulated heavily. They were dropped, scraped, stored in damp environments. Finding one today in honest, very fine condition with original surfaces is not common. And originality is everything. Let me make this crystal clear. Never clean this coin. I don't care if it looks dull. I don't care if it's dark chocolate brown or has subtle olive undertones. That aged surface is called original toning. It forms over decades as copper reacts slowly with air. Once you strip that away with polish or chemicals, it's gone forever. Collectors can spot a cleaned coin instantly. Hairline scratches, unnatural brightness, lifeless shine. Cleaning doesn't increase value, it erases it. Professional grading is critical here. Authentication confirms not just condition, but surface integrity. A properly graded 1928 no. Mint mark in very fine condition with strong eye appeal becomes a completely different asset than a raw coin sold casually online. And here's where your heart rate should go up. Today's market value for the right authenticated example, $635,000. That's not pocket change. That's hidden wealth sitting in plain sight. This is not fiction. Auction rooms go quiet when one of these surfaces with strong detail and untouched surfaces. Bidding doesn't start explosive, it builds. Two seasoned collectors recognize the die characteristics. They notice the strike strength. They examine the even wear pattern. They check for damage, and when they see originality, the competition turns aggressive. Because serious collectors understand something most people don't. Supply is shrinking. Every year, more coins are damaged, cleaned, lost, or locked away permanently in private collections. Fewer quality examples circulate publicly. Demand doesn't slow, it grows. Why do collectors emotionally want this coin? Because it represents pre-Depression America, the final breath before economic collapse. It's a symbol of survival, financially and physically. It connects to a dramatic chapter in US history. And owning one in strong, preserved condition feels like owning a tangible piece of that turning point. Most people miss this. They see 1928 and think old penny. Collectors see scarcity. They see historical tension. They see a nearly 100-year-old survivor that escaped destruction. Now let's talk about what you check immediately. First, confirm there is no mint mark under the date. Philadelphia only. Second, examine Lincoln's hair above the ear. Is there clear separation? In very fine condition, you should still see defined strands. Third, check the wheat stalks. Are the lines strong and separated? Weak wheat lines lower value. Fourth, look at the rims. Are they complete and not merging into the lettering? Fifth, do not judge based on color alone. Brown is normal. Deep brown is normal. Even slightly uneven toning is normal. What destroys value? Cleaning, scratches, gouges, environmental damage from improper storage, and impatience. Patience creates wealth in this game. Too many people sell too quickly without grading. Too many assume circulated means worthless. Too many underestimate what history can be worth when preserved correctly. And here's the emotional punch. Imagine finding one of these in an inherited coin roll. Imagine almost spending it at a vending machine. Imagine realizing later that you held $635,000 between your fingers. You're not just holding copper. You're holding a silent fortune, a life-changing opportunity, a hidden big treasure that most people are accidentally losing every single day. Do not spend this coin. Handle it carefully. Store it properly. Seek professional grading. Let experts confirm what you might have. Because this detail, the date, the absence of a mint mark, the preserved, very fine sharpness, changes everything. And if you think a nearly century-old 1928 wheat penny in very fine condition, reaching over $600,000, is shocking. The next coin on this list wasn't just rare. It was born from chaos. And when collectors see it, they don't hesitate. They go to war for it. Next up, if you ever see a wheat penny that looks silver, your brain will tell you it's fake. It's not copper. It's not brown. It doesn't look right. And that split second of doubt is exactly how people lose $621,000. I'm talking about the 1943D silver wheat penny, the one that looks like it shouldn't exist, the one with blue layers shimmering across both sides, the one sitting in very fine condition that most people would toss aside as a science project experiment. Do not spend this coin. 1943 was not a normal year. America was deep in World War II. Copper was critical for ammunition, wiring, military equipment. The US government needed metal for survival, not for pennies. So the mint made a radical decision: stop using copper for cents. Instead, they struck them in zinc-coated steel. That's why the 1943 wheat penny looks silver. And if there's a tiny D under the date, that means it was struck in Denver under extreme wartime pressure. Factories were running non-stop. Resources were rationed. Production demands were intense. The Denver Mint wasn't crafting collectibles. They were supporting a nation at war. And when you push metal production that hard, strange things happen. The 1943D steel wheat penny weighs about 2.7 grams, lighter than the traditional bronze cents. Diameter, still 19 millimeters. Thickness, around 1.52 millimeters. Same slim girth, same familiar size. Smooth edge. But when you hold it, it feels different. Slightly lighter, slightly colder, almost industrial. Because it is. The core is low-carbon steel coated in zinc to protect it from rust. But over time, that zinc reacts. It tones. It shifts. It develops blue-gray layers, sometimes electric blue highlights under the right light. In very fine condition, those blue layers can ripple across the surface like oil on water. And here's where most people make the biggest mistake. They assume discoloration means damage, so they polish it. They dip it. They scrub away the very thing collectors are obsessed with. Original wartime zinc toning, especially blue layered surfaces, is incredibly desirable when natural and undisturbed. It proves age. It proves authenticity. It proves survival. Cleaning destroys that instantly. Let's look at the design. On the obverse, Abraham Lincoln remains unchanged. Calm. Focused. In God we trust above. Liberty on the left. The date, 1943 on the right. And beneath it, the tiny but powerful D. That mint mark is everything. Flip it over and you'll see the wheat stalks framing 1 cent. United States of America, E pluribus unum. Same classic design introduced in 1909 but now struck in steel. A wartime emergency adaptation. And because this was the only year regular issue steel cents were produced, the 1943 coins stand alone in history. But not all 1943D steel pennies are equal. Many rusted. The zinc coating wore away. They corroded, stained, or were discarded. Steel doesn't forgive neglect the way copper sometimes does. Moisture eats it. Scratches expose it. Storage mistakes destroy it. Finding a 1943D in very fine condition with intact surfaces and natural blue layered toning, that's not common. Collectors fixate on the smallest details. They examine the sharpness of Lincoln's cheek and jawline. They check the separation in the wheat stalk veins. They look for pitting, a sign of corrosion. They inspect the mint mark position and shape. They analyze luster patterns even in circulated grades. And here's something most people miss. 1943 steel cents are magnetic. If your silver-looking penny doesn't stick to a magnet, something unusual is happening. And unusual in this year can mean serious money. But that's a story for another day. What we're focused on here is the Denver-minted 1943 steel cent with strong detail and original blue toning. Auction rooms change when one appears. There's tension, because serious collectors understand wartime coins carry emotional weight. This isn't just metal, it's a relic of national sacrifice. A coin born from rationing, urgency, survival. And when a well-preserved 1943D steel wheat penny hits the block with authentication and eye appeal, bidding doesn't crawl. It accelerates. Because supply is shrinking. Steel cents were never meant to last forever. Corrosion quietly removes examples from the population every year. Many were damaged by people trying to improve their appearance. Others were simply lost to time. Collectors who secure premium examples often hold them tightly. They understand what they represent and what they're worth. Today's market value for the right authenticated 1943D silver wheat penny, in very fine condition with exceptional preserved surfaces, $621,000. That will be That's not hype. That's hidden wealth disguised as wartime change. Imagine pulling one from an old coffee can and thinking, oh, cool, a steel penny, and spending it on a vending machine soda. That's how silent fortunes disappear. So here's what you check immediately. First, confirm the date, 1943. Second, look under the date for the D mint mark. Third, test gently with a magnet. Steel scents should stick. Fourth, examine the surface. Are the blue layers natural and even, or does it look scrubbed and overly bright? Fifth, never clean it. Not with cloth, not with chemicals, not with anything. Professional grading is critical. Authentication protects you from counterfeits and confirms condition. Without grading, you're guessing. With grading, you unlock credibility, and market power. And remember this, original toning matters more than shine. Those subtle blue-gray waves across the surface, that's history locked in metal. That's what collectors crave. That's what turns 1 cent into serious money. Patience creates wealth here, rushing to sell raw, cleaning for appearance, ignoring small details. These are the mistakes that erase opportunity. This coin feels different for a reason. It was born in war. It survived corrosion. It carries the story of a nation sacrificing copper for victory. And today, in the right preserved state, it carries a value of $621,000. You are not holding spare change. You are holding a life-changing opportunity, a hidden big treasure, a silent fortune people are accidentally losing every single day. So the next time you see a wheat penny that looks silver, don't dismiss it. Look closer, because sometimes the coin that looks wrong is the one that changes everything.